Time for us to explore a number of the properties that come with the range object. The first of those, and probably the most important one, is the value property. Value property is a read and a write property. So we can actually read the value of a range's properties, or we can enter a value of a range's properties. If you use the range testing file, you'll find we've created the skeleton of a routine that will allow us to test out our range value option. So if I want to set the value of a particular cell in the range, I can simply go range, open brackets, open speech marks, A1, close brackets, close speech marks, dot value, and you'll see it appears in the list, equals 567. If I then run my range test, nothing appears to have happened, but if you go back to the Excel file, you'll find 567 is in A1. Almost like magic, isn't it? Back to the Visual Basic. Now, if I were to extend that to a range of cells, so a range within the range object, to D4, and set the value to 75, come down and run that routine. When we go have a look at Excel, you'll find 75 is in each of the cells within the range. So it doesn't decide to put it in the top left-hand corner or the bottom right-hand corner. It puts it in every cell within the specified range, this being the specified range of the current worksheet. Now, if I want to put those values in worksheet 2, then I can select and just put a prefix there that we saw before earlier, worksheets, open brackets, open speech marks, sheet 2, close my speech marks, close my brackets, and a dot. Then when we run the range test, I should have 75 in the current sheet and 75 in sheet 2. So there's sheet 1 and there's sheet 2. So I can assign values to a single cell just by referencing a single cell, or multiple cells by referencing a range of cells in the range object. Now, the even better news is that the value property is actually the default. Therefore, I don't need it. So if I were to pick on a different range, for example, so I go range, speech marks, go E6 colon F8, speech marks, and I just say equals, I don't need to put the dot value, 89. Let's rerun our range test and have a look, and you'll see it's from E6 to F8 with no need for me to actually put dot value. Remember the delimiters that are required if you're not dealing with numbers. If I want to put text in a cell, then I need to make sure that that text is encompassed in speech marks. So I want to put my name in each of those cells. I need to put it like that. If I want to use a date, so let's take a copy of that, save a bit of typing, and we'll do a cell next to it. So let's go for F10. And I want to put a date in there, then the delimiter is the hash key. So the date would be hash, the month first, then the day, then the year, then the hash at the end. Notice the VBA turns those into slashes, not me, I put hyphens. Range test, let's have a look. We have Guyver car in each of those 6 cells, and there is a number too big to see there, which is 10/31/2002. So that's speech marks for text, so that you're delimiting the text so it knows what the text is and where to put it, and hashes for the date so that it knows that it's a date. For numeric values, you simply put the numeric value. No formatting or any commas at 1,000, that will just confuse things. It's just a straightforward raw number. We can also read the value of a range. Let's have a part of this sub-procedure. We firstly need to declare a variable to hold the result of the value we're going to collect. So let's assume we're going to collect a numeric value. So dim x as integer, where x is equal to range, open brackets, open speech marks, A1. And then for us to be able to see x at the moment, we either assign it to another cell, or let's just put it out into a message box. So message box x. So let's have a look at what's in A1. 75 is in there currently. Now if we comment that out, so it doesn't put 75 back in there, or that one. And then let's go and put our own number in there. So let's have 678. So 678 is in A1. When I now run range test, I see 678 in my message box because we've gone and read the 678. Notice that we only read the value of a single cell. If you want to read the value of multiple cells, so effectively of a range within your range, then things are slightly different. What we need to do is declare a variable, which we'll say is y this time, as a variant, because it's going to collect multiple values, and then we can actually tell y to go and get all the values that are perhaps in this range here. That's complaining because the equals goes nowhere, but that's okay because it'll be happy in a moment when I bring that down and paste that there. So I'm asking it to go and get all the values in the range and place them in y. Well, y is now going to hold more than one value, so it actually gets treated as an array. And because it's treated as an array, we can reference sections of the array by saying, let's write out message box y and the item that is in the 1, 3 position. So if we now try the range test, we get our 678, and then we've got subscript out of range. Let's debug. The reason for that went further than the range goes. 678, and then Gaivakara. There's only actually 2 columns here. So that's a little clever use there of the range object. It's got more than one cell within it. I want the values of those cells, so I bring them into a variable. The variable is defined as a variant, so it can hold anything really. And because it has multiple values, you can then work with it as an array, but there's no need to initially define it as an array. So the number of cells here doesn't matter because we've declared a variant type, but they are then stored in y. And then when you try and use y to pull the values back out to make use of them, you need to treat it like an array and use the referencing. Don't forget the indexes start at 0. So you use the indexes to pull out the information that you want. So in theory, that's a quite clever use of the value of a range being pulled into one variable, but then you still be able to read all the unique values. So this is the .value property. It's the default property, so you don't actually ever need to put .value, although sometimes when you're writing your code, it's probably easier to put .value, so you know explicitly that you're looking for the value of a range or trying to set the value of a range. Because if you don't have the .value, as we haven't done here and here and here and here, you might not be setting the .value. So you're sort of spelling it out, but because it's the default, you don't need to spell it out. So that really comes back down to your personal preference.